Today, we're going to the junkyard to rescue a new project car. Today, we're going to the junkyard to rescue a new project car. It has 2 doors, all-wheel drive, an inline 6-cylinder engine, but it's not a Nissan GTR. It's an AMC Eagle. And I'm Jeremy Clarkson.
Jesus Christ.
I think that was the wrong accent.
Yeah.
I think that was Australian Jeremy Clarkson accent.
Yeah, I think you're just too much into Mighty Car Mods.
I'm Jeremy Clarkson. First, jack up your car. This is my mirror. I can't do this. So, background story here. I've always wanted an Eagle. This one is an SX4, so it's kind of rare. It's the 2-door hatch version, which is basically the AMC Spirit body, which in 1979, the AMC Spirit AMX won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring in its class, which is one of my favorite racing stories. So, yeah, Eagle SX4 based on the AMC Spirit. Of course, at this point, AMC was just building they only really made one car. The AMC Spirit was a version of the Concorde, which is a version of the Gremlin, which is a version of the Hornet, which is, the wagon was the Eagle wagon was a version of the Concorde wagon, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're, it's all basically the same body structure. So I've always wanted an SX4. They're kind of rare, and I came across a Facebook post. Someone was picking parts off of VW at this junkyard, which I had never heard of. And in the background is this intact, complete Eagle SX4. I was like, holy shit, I want to go, can I get that car? And so ended up going out there, taking a look at it. I passed on it initially because I thought, it's just a little bit too rough. And so I endeavored to try and find a better one. And the only other one I found, the person was like, I'd sell it for the right price, but I don't really want to sell it. So they wanted $5,000 for this XX4, and it really wasn't that much better. So I decided, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna go get this car. It's got some rust, but there's nothing I can see on any of the painted surfaces. So I should be able to replace and rebuild stuff underneath with minimal body work and butt welding sort of stuff. Fingers crossed. As for the car, what the plan is, for now the plan is to just get it back on the road. Currently, it's the junkyard owner, who turns out he's a big car guy. He's, the reason this thing is still there is because he didn't have the guts to sell parts off of it and crush it. And so, anyways, he said he didn't have the title for it. And so I should be able to bond the title, which is a bit of a challenge, but it can be done. So the plan is to get it back on the road. So I think the first step will be to make sure the body is solid and obviously get it titled, which will involve a VIN inspection and that kind of thing. Make sure the body's solid. Probably gonna have to replace rocker panels. For now, I might run it with rusty rocker panels. Just make sure there's no serious structural rot. But the good thing is rocker panels are available because this body shell, the AMC Spirit / Eagle SX4 body shell, is actually related to the Gremlin. So I can get Gremlin rockers and they'll just, they fit right in there. So they make outer rocker skins. So I probably can get some of those. They're cheap, so that's positive. By the way, behind the camera is my girlfriend, Rachel.
I'm not going to turn it around.
And,
oh, look, a monkey, though. Oh, wait, that's like a stuffed otter.
Yeah, it's not a real monkey.
This is better. That is sketchy. How's he going to deal with, when it merges here? I don't like biking enough to do that.
I don't like exercise enough to do that.
True.
Oh, right. I never finished talking about my plans.
Jesus.
Continuing the Rambletron here. My plan with the car is to do a world's first. Actually, I don't know if it's world first, but I want to get the car low. And when I say low relative to where it's at. So, you know, close to stock Gremlin, Hornet, Concorde kind of height. And as far as I know, no one has accomplished this with an Eagle and maintained the all-wheel drive. Of course, there was that TV show, it was like Lost in Transmission or something, and with like Rutledge Wood, and they got some guy's Eagle and they lowered it, but the poor guy ended up with a Ford 302 and a two-wheel drive, so that sucks. Anyway, so it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to involve new knuckles on the front, or different knuckles on the front. Move suspension mounting points for the lower control arm. My hope is I can maintain the upper control arm as is, and just change some lower control arm knuckle stuff and get it low. And for the rear, that'll be a cakewalk. Just flip it from spring under to spring over, and that's my plan. And I did see one guy who had lowered an Eagle, but it wasn't really that low. It was like maybe an inch or two lower. He still had big tires on it and stuff. So anyway, that's the plan. I'm hoping I can execute it. I'm not hoping. I'm determined to execute it. Even if I have to fabricate my own front suspension, I'll do it. You know, it's just a problem-solving challenge. It's an engineering challenge. It's kind of fun. It's what I enjoy. So I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, we'll see you at the junkyard. We are just about to turn into the lot. It's very screwy because there's not enough room for car trailers.
Yeah, there's already 2 cars parked there.
Let's see.
Nuts.
Yeah, I'll just pull down here again, like I did last time.
They can.
Pop her in the 4x.
Yeah, I don't see the.
I figure worst case scenario, I can just keep going down here and then turn around and pull in later.
All
right, we have arrived. Time to broker the deal. Well, we got her on the trailer. I didn't video in the junkyard, but here's the car. It's pretty rough, but I think it'll clean up okay. The rust on closer inspection isn't terrible. I think it's got a lot of crust on it just from sitting outside, sitting in the grass, that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's got a lot of lichen, kind of mossy stuff on it, some rust streaks and dirt, but I think it'll clean up well. And you know, with a mechanical restoration, straighten out some of the panels, I think it'll be pretty fun. So we'll look at it more once we get home. Well, I didn't end up shooting too much. I just wanted to get the thing home and get it off the trailer, but we got the car home, got it in the garage, and whew, boy, it took all day. We probably started our day at like 2 o'clock or something and ended up around 8. We got the hood off because this hood hinge is seized up, so the hood didn't want to close, and it's got a kink in it where someone tried to force it, which I think the outside looks pretty good, so I think we should be able to straighten that out. Peeking in the engine bay here, you see the original engine, 4.2 inline 6, of course, famous AMC inline 6, this, you know, same engine architecture as the 4-liter. And this car may or may not see a 4-liter in the future. But, you know, considering that this thing's a little rusty, not even the battery tray is rusted out. There's a known rust spot down in here. And if you look down in there, it doesn't look too bad. Similar story over here, doesn't look too bad. It's kind of hard to see, it's a total mess. These cars, just an absolute shit show of vacuum hoses and craziness. Let's check out the rest of the car though. You can see, you know, it's got the typical outdoor, you know, moss and shit on the car.
Got junkyard numbers on the windshield. A little bit of cracking. Oh, that's actually pretty cracked. I don't see any rust going on in the roof area here. There's some moss growing, so we might have some suspects up there. I don't know if I can probably pull that trim off and inspect. But I think, you know, the first thing to do would be to just clean the car up. It's really kind of crusty. There's a pretty good dent in the door right here and a corresponding piece of surface rust. You know, if we come over here, obviously all the tires are flat and that kind of stuff. The wheels are pretty hammered. This one's got the aluminum fascia there is falling apart. But you don't see any rust bubbling out, you know, beyond the flares or anything. But we do see some rust in here. We're probably gonna have to do outer rocker panels at the very least, do some fabrication on the inners. So, got some rust to repair. Hatch is closed for now because it's actuated electrically and I don't know how to get that off, or, you know, I just need to jump those wires, but I actually don't even own a floor jack right now, so the car's gonna just kind of sit here until I can get some tires under it and get a floor jack and some jack stands. The driver's side, let's see if I can scoot over there. The driver's side is the rough side. You can see the intake manifold is off the car. It's just kind of flopping in there. I don't know what they were doing. See, this is the biggest concern here is this door fender had some contact. So likely this fender got pushed back a bit and the door came up to meet it, got opened into it, all that kind of shit. So the door hinges and stuff, yeah, you can see the hinge pins are pretty wallered out in there. So it's gonna need hinge pins. I'm probably gonna just pull this door off, maybe this fender too, and try and hammer that out. Might work some of that metal straight again. There's also a dent right up front. A lot of the gingerbread here, the trim is all kind of busted up. So I might try and make new trim here for this. I might try and fabricate that, or I'm not sure quite what I'll do yet. But the engine bay looks pretty good considering, you know, the age of the car. I guess, you know, it's probably not that old. Oh, let's find out what year it is. All right, we got the door open here, checking out the build date. Build date is August 1982. So I think that would make this a 1983 model year car. There's the tags. It does feel a little bit funny talking like this about a car from the 80s. If you look in there, you can see this is a select drive car, so it's got selectable 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. We got the TAC cluster. So if we check out the interior here, I think this car was a little higher optioned than most of them. You can see we've got the wood in the dash. We've got the little package tray down there. We've got remote controlled mirrors. This one's a little busted. Thankfully the mirror glass is all intact, but the mechanism's a little broke. Obviously it's a 5-speed. I think this should be a T5. Missing those center vents over there. Missing the passenger side door window handle. These seats I think are out of a different car. This blue color I don't think is original. But they appear to be AMC seats and probably Eagle seats. The rear seat looks all good. No, yeah, forget that. Rear seat looks pretty good. It's black. So I'd imagine that's probably what the front seats initially looked like. I think I'm probably going to put a different sort of seat in here, more like a racing seat. That's just my style. I think the seat is part of what makes a car pleasant to drive. So a lot of work to be done. Tour of the rust I didn't actually complete here. I was looking underneath at the junkyard when I picked it up. There's some rot in that floor, but you know, it's maybe about yay wide, and about, I don't know, 12-inch, 10-inch long, so not too bad. I know I can get replacement pans from a Gremlin, which should generally fit. I can get replacement rockers from a Gremlin, which should directly fit. I know the floor pan is different towards the back, where the transfer case is. There's a recess. So it looks like, I'm certainly not an expert on these cars quite yet, but looks like this car never had AC. But yeah, I think this is what makes it a higher option car. It is an Eagle Sport. So it's not only an SX4, it's an SX4 Sport, which is a higher trim package. Here we can explore the interior a little better. Oh, yeah, terrible hinge pins. These things are, notorious for hinge pins, just like anything else. Got my side marker light there, that's all good. It was just off the car for whatever reason. Looks like maybe steering wheel, horn ring button stuff. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Oh shit, there's my window crank. Yeah. I suspect that people might have pulled some parts off of this thing, and then the junkyard owner said, "Hey, don't do that. The car is not for picking." Now, folks, I have not opened this glove box yet. What could lie inside? A rock and a spoon. Sick. Glove box does work though. Honestly, this material on the dash is like better than some Chevys, modern Chevys. See, does the seat fold? Oh, like a champ. Light bulb package. Oh yeah, this thing is a little nasty, but honestly, I've bought newer cars that were way worse than this. This seat looks honestly fine. I bet this seat will clean up just fine. This is one of the things that's cool about these cars. These seats fold flat. And yeah, also the carpet it's dirty, but I think it's usable. But yeah, it is missing this big trim piece across the back. That's kind of a bummer. So yeah, rust tour. You can see here's a rust pile here. If I push on this rocker, I got some pretty significant rot under there. But once you get up into here, I think the plastic cover ends here. So once you're in here, got a little surface rust here, but nothing terrible. Oh, sorry, surface rust here, but nothing terrible. This surface here all seems pretty solid. This is concerning here, I bet. Yeah, that rocker goes all the way up into here and it's just gone. So I'm gonna do some rust exploration, see what we got. Probably take off these doors, do hinge pins at the very least, clean up the interior, clean up the outside, polish this paint. I'll bet you anything this paint polishes right up and looks just fine. But yeah, I'm particularly straightening out that door and that fender so that doors close properly. This is a problem with these things. These are really 1970s style doors. Oh no, this mirror is cracked here. This mechanism seems good though. But that's about it for our first episode of the Eagle Rescue. Got to figure out something to do with this front end. I'm considering doing something custom. No, there's been a lot of heinous, ugly front ends done for these things, and honestly, I'm not sure that I love the factory front end. But that egg crate grill, it looks pretty good. So I think I might do something like that. I've been curious about 3D printing, and if I could 3D print a multi-part print that would come together and make a full grill. I've been curious about that, so I might try that. And yeah, we'll see how we do. Anyways, that's my new project car right there. I figured I'd point out some of the parts I really love about the styling of this car while we're here. I love this rear end. I love these funky, wide tail lights, and they're all there. It's all perfect. It's all in good shape. So, you know, these are, you know, they're not, actually, I was gonna say they're not perfect, but they damn well near are. You know, they're wet, they're faded, but that's restorable. You know, you can either take and polish all this or put a fresh layer of clear coat. Looks like I have a small crack there, but I'll bet they just clean up pretty nice. And I love this duckbill spoiler thing on the back. And you know, it's multi-part. It fits up here into this piece that comes down the side. All super cool. Love that. I love these little round marker lights on the side. I really wish more car makers would use marker lights. You know, we've come to the era of, well, we've been in the era for 30 years of wraparound lights where they, you know, they come into the corner here, and there's a lot of cool treatments you could do that involve marker lights. Like, you know, the current Dodge Challenger uses marker lights and looks very cool. It's got that chopped off front end, and anyways, I think that's all very neat. I like this style line that comes down the side. One thing I'm not crazy about with these is the way they do their trim treatment. It's kind of messy. You've got this middle trim, you've got this lower trim, and I mean, I get that it's kind of like an Outback style two-tone. Of course, the more like the Outback is an Eagle style two-tone, but I don't know if I'm crazy about it, but I've also photoshopped it before, and in Photoshop, it really doesn't look that much better if you delete it. So I might just leave it. I probably will just leave it, certainly for now. The engine bay is pretty cool here. You know, all the suspensions here, the differentials are all here, CV axles, everything's complete. I love the size of this engine bay. I love the inline 6 engines. If you've ever heard these things run, they sound so smooth. Almost every inline 6 is incredibly smooth, and these are no exception. They're really low revving. I would like to see if I can make the engine RPM. Might get more RPM out of it. I don't know if that's asking for trouble, but I know Crane makes a pretty wild cam for these things, so I figure why not let it rip and see what it happens. Like I mentioned before, this might get swapped out for a 4-liter. We'll see. Oh, another thing I like about this thing, I just love the way these flares stick right out of the body. I mean, this is like SEMA 2017, except it's frickin' from 1983. Now, of course, the reality is, look at that wheel gap. I mean, this thing, that wheel is a solid, I can, you know, almost, let's see, I can spread almost my hand all the way out before I get to this wheel lip here. Now the wheel lip of this flare, let's see, the wheel lip of the flare is about 1 inch wide. So you could cut this back and get more tire clearance. It's almost like they've actually demarked here, you know, that's where you need to start cutting for your tire clearance. And then, you know, finish her off right back there. But if we peek in the inside of the wheel tub also has a flare in the body panel, and so it's really more like this just extends it. One of the things with the Eagle is this flare actually brings your wheel arch down actually about this much right here. So for example, in the late 70s, AMC did a Spirit AMX, and that flare came out like this and stopped, so that wheel arch was still up there. So if I want to get this thing low as a Spirit, I'm probably I might tuck, the tires might tuck, which is not my favorite look. So we'll see how we end up with stance. Now that's one thing I've talked about, I can't remember if I've actually mentioned, my plan is to get this thing low. And it's gonna involve a lot of suspension changes, but I think I can make it happen. It's gonna be awesome. America.